Eugene Myrick, thank you for being here at WRAL.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Affordable housing is a huge issue in Raleigh. You acknowledge this many, many times. There have been some drips of progress, but this still is a huge issue to tackle.
Correct.
What's your plan to fix the affordable housing issue in Raleigh?
Well, my time in New York, I did work with a city councilman, and the focus was 100% affordable housing. And that's something that can be achieved in Raleigh. Right now, affordable housing is based off of 100% of the area median income. And the area median income is $108,000. So 30% of that is around $2,600 a month. So I'm saying that we could focus more on an individual's income. And like prime example, the Heritage Park housing was just sold. Where I live, Biltmore Hills apartment was just sold. But if we focus on a neighborhood median income, like let's get the income of those folks that live there now to ensure that before they're moved out, they have a place to live. So I'm more focused on a neighborhood median income, whereas you can get an individual, 30% of your income can guarantee that you have a place to live. Because if we go based off of 30% of the area median income, I don't know how you can base affordability off of somebody else's income. So that's where I'm at with that.
And you mentioned your time in Brooklyn. So is that something that you are bringing in from another city?
Right. So I'm fortunate. Once I graduated from Shaw, I did work in the Wake County school system for a while, but I also taught in the New York City school system. And then I got into broadcast radio, which took me from New York, LA, Chicago, but I've always come back to North Carolina. And so some of the things I see happening here, they're happening in real time. Like when I look at what they consider Skid Row in Los Angeles, and now I'm here in Raleigh, and it's like every exit that you come off, there's a homeless encampment. So we have a bunch of small Skid Rows here. So I'm using from what I've seen in other cities and what I'm seeing happen in Raleigh real time, and I'm saying some of these things can be prevented if we get a handle on them right now.
Your website says you want a non-negotiable mixed housing policy. Can you explain what that looks like?
Well, right now, City Council, I feel like they passed the buck. I feel like they say, well, we can't tell a developer what to do, but you can tell them no. You know, they come before City Council with these ideas and they say no. But at the same time, the city owns land. The city has real estate that we can build on. And if we used city-owned land to create affordable housing, once again, it's based off an individual's income, you know, not the area median income. So as of right now, a police officer starts with $55,000 a year. They can't afford $2,600 a month. That's at least half their salary. So we want teachers to be able to live here. We want the police, we want the firefighters to be able to live here. We shouldn't want our civil servants to have to live out in the outskirts to travel to Raleigh. The quality of life and affordability is something that I'm focused on.
Speaking of civil servants, let's talk about public safety. You want to support the police officers. What does that look like to you? Does that mean raising their wages? Does that mean getting more police officers?
Well, you know, when I hear folks say, you know, defund the police, I'm like, that's just really not realistic. You had no police, there'll be anarchy. And in all honesty, my brother and my sister-in-law retired NYPD and Department of Corrections from New York. So I understand. So part of the issue that we have with police here is they are underpaid, but at the same time, you can offer incentives. Once again, just having the experience of living somewhere else, like in New York, they have programs like the Officer Next Door and the Teacher Next Door. I took advantage of the Teacher Next Door program.
What's that?
And this is an incentive where you can, if a house is say like $200,000, you give them the down payment. You also give them funds to make improvements to the home. So, and then you're required to live in that home for 5 years. So there are incentives for Raleigh PD, and although Wake County controls the teachers, but I'm saying the city can get involved where we want our teachers to be able to live here in Raleigh. So we can come up with incentives like Officer Next Door, Teacher Next Door, and these are programs where you can incentivize. So the salary is one thing, but if I can help you afford a down payment, as well as some funds to improve the home so the way you want it, that may be an incentive. So you may only start with $55,000, but this type of incentive may be enough to say, okay, this is something that will make me want to stay on the Raleigh Police Force or stay as a Wake County teacher working in Raleigh.
It's an interesting idea. I'm curious, where you get the funding for that to work. Do you see certain areas where you think that there could be efficiencies and a reduction of cost in other areas of the city budget?
Right. One of my I'm focused I have 4 core principles: leadership, empathy, accountability, and diversity. Leadership and accountability are most important. Accountability is like the city just spent $100,000 on a dog park for downtown, and it's literally a gate with some mulch. There's no adventure park for the dogs. It's literally a gate and some mulch, and $100,000. That's not utilizing the people's money properly. Additionally, the city created a problem when they did sip and stroll. So now you can leave a bar with your drink, you can leave a club with your drink, and now that there's more violence happening downtown, instead of revoking that, they said, well, let's pay a private police force. Mm-hmm. So now they paid a private police force $3.2 million to help alleviate a problem that the city created. So me, on the other hand, I would have took that $3.2 million and I would have split it in 3. I would have said, let's immediately do a small recruitment class. We could have brought in 10 new officers with $1 million. We could have spent $1 million on the Acorns unit, which is a non-emergency police unit, to help. And then we could have spent $1 million to alleviate the homeless population off the streets. So just being a little bit more accountable with the people's money is one of the things I'm looking forward to. And then when we asked, I could see when the folks of Raleigh are asked like a parks bond or something to that effect, they come up with the dough. So it's like people of Raleigh put up money for a parks bond, and even that's not being properly executed. You know, 1/3 of that $275 million, I think it is being spent between Chavis Park and Dix Park. But the entire city put in for that money. You know what I'm saying? So it's about being more accountable and being more equitable with the dollars that the people put in.
You mentioned downtown, so I want to pivot to downtown revitalization. Mm-hmm. There are pockets of downtown that have a lot of energy, that are places to go, destinations, mm-hmm. but they're sort of connected by areas that some say don't really have much character mm-hmm. and don't have a lot going on. And critics will say that, well, that has sort of created a fabric that doesn't have much character if you're looking at the bigger picture, the city at large. Mm-hmm. What would you like to do? What's your vision to create a city that has energy throughout, has places to go throughout, and not just in pockets? Well,
and see, I beg to differ, because the whole story is not being told. Like, there are neighborhoods, part of downtown was considered Black Wall Street. You had the Light in the Game Room, and a lot of Black history is literally being erased from downtown. So when I travel to, say, like Atlanta, I might go to Atlanta to a basketball game or a football game, to go to some of the cultural, the King Center and things like that. But every time I go to Atlanta, I always manage to end up at Ebenezer Church or Dr. King's home. Like, that entire block has been preserved. So it's not like you're going to see Dr. King's house and it's next to a 20-story building. So things like that bring culture, they bring tourism. So we're not utilizing what we have.
We're not doing a good enough job of telling the story of Raleigh through the people that have built it up.
Exactly, and the fact that you have Shaw University there with S.D. Hall, the first dormitory with Black women in the entire country. You have Leonard Medical School there, the first 4-year medical school in the country, not at a Black school or white school, the first 4-year medical school. Like, if something like that was to be properly promoted, you know, then this can bring in the type of tourism that folks go to the King Center to see. You know, like SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. It started on Shaw's campus with Ella Baker. So there's a lot of history that's not being properly told. And unfortunately, at the rapid rate of development, some of these things will be wiped out. Like the Leitner funeral home. They caught fire, they tore it down. There wasn't even a brick. By the time I went back to see, you know, what happened, there wasn't even a brick. And turns out that that's one of the places that should have been on the National Registry with a few other buildings. So we have a lot of history in Raleigh that's just getting wiped out. And things are moving at such a rapid pace that we're not actually capturing that picture for the world to see. Mm.
You were a leader in the effort against rezoning part of Shaw's downtown campus. Mm-hmm. What did that experience teach you?
in all honesty, it just taught me that some folks really don't care about culture and history. And see, as an individual, when I came to show in 1990, and it's ironic that I remember I came my freshman year. This was when like Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing, and those type of movies came out. And I came down, I had an X hat. I had a hat with an X on it. And I never forget, my roommate was like, "Why do you have an X on your hat?" And I was like, "Well, Malcolm X, you know," he didn't know anything about that. And he was like, "Well, all we learned about was Dr. King and Rosa Parks." So Shaw University, the history is so rich. Like, I recently came across black and white photos where there was a time when I think the state government was talking about merging majority of HBCUs back then. And there was like this huge march with tens of thousands of black college students that converged on Shaw's campus. And I just came across some of those photos. And that's like some of the history that hasn't been told. You know, like I came across black and white photos of Stevie Wonder at Shaw's homecoming in Chavis Park, you know, Dr. King on Shaw's campus. So it's like, you know, folks are going to Atlanta, they skipping over Raleigh, going to Greensboro, but there's a lot of history and culture right here in Raleigh. And I'm not one of those folks, I don't want to just be a picture on the wall. You know, like there's easy to be a placard there to say this is what happened here, but we can salvage some of those buildings and make them actual tourist attractions to help with Raleigh.
In some ways, it makes me think of New Orleans.
Yeah, there you go. Like folks will go we're going to go to Mardi Gras just to walk the strip. You know, the buildings haven't changed. And if you start to overdevelop it, it's not going to have the same feel. That's kind of how I feel about Shaw and downtown Raleigh.
Okay. All right. So you're elected day one. What's your first priority?
My first priority is to expand city council. I think that Raleigh is growing at such a rapid rate that you actually need at least 10 city council members. And I would do it based off of population, not geographical location. Because if you did it based off of population, an area like District C may end up with 3 or 4 city council members based off of population. And once again, it's not really expensive, because I did see one city council member say, "Well, I don't know where we would get the money to pay." City council members are making $29,000. First of all, that's ridiculous. To make $29,000 a year and making billion-dollar decisions defies logic. But I would expand to 10 city council members, and I would give them offices in the district. Because right now, to meet with your city council member, they're having community hours at a coffee shop. So like, take my neighborhood in Biltmore Hills, our property taxes have gone up. So I feel kind of crazy sitting in a coffee shop to talk to my city councilman while I have to deal with all this laughing and joking while folks are having a cappuccino, you know? So to have city offices in the neighborhood, and then the city council reduced the amount of time you get to speak. It's gone from 3 minutes to 2 minutes to 1 minute. So I think you give the people access, and this way we can actually hear what's affecting the people on a daily basis, as opposed to once a month or every 2 weeks with 1 minute at city council. So my first priority would be to expand the city council.
Goes back to one of your key things that you talk about, which is community engagement. Exactly. Because we have, currently the city council has a community engagement. They have the van that goes out, but when they bring information back to city council, it's ignored. One of the things that the people asked for was they wanted to stick with 2-year terms, and they wanted to expand the city council, but city council voted to go to 4-year terms and not expand the city council. So they did exactly the opposite of what the people voted for, what the people asked for, rather. So yeah, that's where I'm at. More community engagement. Eugene Myrick, thank you so much for being here at WRAL.
Thank you. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.